What is up, dudes? Lady dudes. Welcome back to Just Nuts, guys. I am so glad. I'm so happy to be back finally. We had a little problem, and it's just a headache. It's just a headache all on its own. Oy. My stepdad went downstairs, was messing with wires in the basement, and straight up cut like 3 different cables that were just like to our Wi-Fi, or at least like the main Wi-Fi cable. I don't know too much about that stuff and names, but straight up just cut the cord. And we asked him, we were like, "What? Why?" And he was like, "I don't know." I was like, "Okay." So for the last week, I did not have any Wi-Fi, which means it was really kind of impossible to make any videos. That's why I was kind of a little vacant for the past week. But I'm back now, and I'm ready to get back on the horse. I had some ideas for like 2019 Happy New Year's videos, but missed that by 3 days because of not having any Wi-Fi. So that was a bummer. But we're back now. We're going to make up for it. We're going to be all right. We're going to keep moving forward, and we're going to keep growing. So anyway, as far as this video goes, this is going to be a top 5 video of the most underrated, undervalued link monsters, like kind of generic link monsters. And I want to stick to generic just because usually if a specific archetype link monster is undervalued or underrated, it's because the archetype as a whole is undervalued or underrated, if that makes sense, right? They kind of get lumped together like that. So I didn't feel like it was fair to include like those kinds of link monsters. So I'm sticking specifically to generic ones. So a lot of these can be played in like any deck that really spams the field a whole lot, except for like literally the one you're looking at right now. But anyway, top 5 most underrated link monsters. Also keep in mind, this is my opinion. This is not 100%, but this is how I feel. I looked at all of them. There's only like 210 link monsters in existence, and we don't even have 30 of them, 20 of them, 30 of them. So these are the ones. And obviously number 5 here is Flame Administrator. No reason to hide it. I'm coming right out. This card's really interesting, really good for pushing for OTKs. It takes, the only thing that's like not generic about it is it takes 2 Cyberse monsters specifically, which isn't even that big of a deal considering we have cards like Link Spider and Link Karibo. So cards like Scapegoat, any token generating cards can help you just go right into this if the tokens are level 1. And he buffs all linked monsters, or all link monsters, period. So that includes himself. So he essentially is 2,000 plus every other link monster you control get an 800 buff as well. Also keep in mind, around the corner, another like way it's not generic is Salamangrates have been tearing it up in the OCG. We should have Salamangrates within the next month and a half. We should have like pretty much all the stuff that they have for Salamangrates, more or less. Probably less, if anything, but it wouldn't be by a lot. I think they'd be playable. And a lot of profiles I saw did not play this card or Transcode Talker, but those 2 in combination are actually really, really strong. If you can just put 3 monsters on the field, you literally just like link 2 of them into him, and then link him and the 3rd monster together to make Transcode, and then Transcode revive this card, and now you've got, a 3,100 Transcode. Well, actually, you have it's not co-link, so a 3,100 transcode and a 2,000 administrator. So you got 5,100 damage on board, which is pretty good to me. Sounds pretty good to me. I'm not, So, I don't know. I just think this card gets looked over way too easily, especially in decks that play those generic link cards like Link, or like Scapegoat, and that they could just play this in here, and you could actually push for even more damage than people think. Like, people think like Mrs. Radiant and Link Spiders are better. But if you're able to extend to a board, I know this card doesn't open up 2 zones for 2 Link Spiders, but you still could do it. You can make a Link Spider pointing down to him, and then a Link Spider to the left of him. And right there, you're looking at, our Link Spider's 1,000. Yeah, so you got 18, 2,000. So you've got 5,600 instead of the 48 or whatever. So it is even more than the Mrs. Radiant combo. But I don't know. I just think it's a little bit undervalued. The next card I put on this list is Topologic Trisbana. I almost wanted to put Topologic Bomber Dragon on here as well, but I feel like he gets a little more recognition because this is all relative to what I feel like, how people value these cards. And I think people recognize what this card can do, but I don't think they respect it, and I don't think players respect it in terms of like playing it, because this card straight up wins games. Like, that's the thing, is like this card's ceiling is so high against any deck that plays like a predominant, you know, level of back row. This card just auto wins if it resolves. You just win. The duel's over. Not only are you burning your opponent for, you know, if you're resolving this, assuming you're burning them for at least 1,500, 1,000, 1,500. And if they're playing a back row deck, they probably don't have a ton of monsters on the field, which means this card probably is the biggest monster on the field, and you're just in such a good position. There's like very, very low chance you lose should this ever go through. But I also understand the risk. A card this powerful to be able to win like that is just a Link 3, also needs to have high risk, and it does. I mean, if you're playing against a deck that has that much back row, they probably are going to do some things to you to not allow you to get into this card, or at least resolve it, right? They probably, if they have that many face down cards, there's a good chance they've got Solemns and stuff to negate this effect, or not even let you get this far. But I still feel like some decks just don't even play it anymore. Like, we saw it getting a decent amount of play when it just came out in, what was that, Flames of Destruction? And then after that, just like nothing. Like, I feel like it just fell off the map. You don't see this in any deck list anymore. And maybe that's because it was just too unreliable, like I said. But still, if the lane is open, then why not play a card like this? I guess it allows you to get punished, but whew, the ceiling is just too good to me. I don't know. I don't know. I just feel like this card, for how good I feel like it is, it just sees no play, like, at all anymore. So, top of Electra's Bane at number 4. At number 3, I have Ib, the World Chalice Priestess. I know this is probably a weird one, because you're like, this card, even if you read it, you're like, this card's super mediocre, right? Gives you protection. It protects itself. If it's linked, it can't be destroyed by battle or card effect. Can't be targeted if it's linked. And if a monster this card points to would be destroyed by a card effect, you can send this card into the graveyard instead. And yeah, so I'm talking about this generically, not even in World Chalice decks, so forget the last effect. Mainly what's important about this card is, one, it does protect itself. If you can just set it up in any, you could link Spider pointing down to it, and that's enough, honestly. But the important thing about this card is, this card, I think people undervalue like cards like Hidden Village of the Spellcasters, or not Hidden Village, yeah, is that what it is? The Village of Spellcaster, I can't even remember the name right now. The card that just says your opponent can't activate spell cards if you control Spellcaster, and they don't. Because it's busted. Like, the fact that this card is so generic like that, 2 monsters with different types and attributes. A lot of decks played monsters with different types and attributes. You just need to put 2 on the board to make this thing. And if it's linked, even, you just need to link it somehow. Just have some generic thing point. You can make a Landfall Link as pointing down to. Make a Link Spider pointing down to. Link Karibo. Doesn't matter. Because then it can't be destroyed and it can't be targeted. So, like, this card's like actually hard to kill. Like, pretty hard to kill. Without adding the stuff pointing to it first. But I think people undervalue, when, especially in a format where we've seen Sky Striker be the best deck for a while now. And what card is more of an auto win than like Imperial Order or Village of the Spellcasters? Like, nothing. Like, those are literally the 2 most single cards that, if they're like in effect against Sky Strikers, like, you probably should just win the duel. No cards are more like impactful against that as just a single card, and this card allows you to run that in your side deck no matter what deck you're playing, as long as you can kind of link spam a little bit and you have cards that are different types and different attributes, or at least you can link in a different types and different attributes to get this card on the field, then you can play that in your side deck. And to me, I'm just saying, why not? Why wouldn't you play that in your side deck if you can make such a generically like powerful card like this, and then just like your opponent can't touch you, like Skyscraper probably can't play. So if you go to a bigger tournament, I feel like that could be totally worth, and people just undervalue that. It's also 1,800, so it's actually respectable, like, especially against Skyscraper. They can't just summon one of the monsters and beat over you. Not necessarily, especially if they can't activate spells to get those engraved to buff them. They can't even get over you. So this card is just, it's good. I think it's a solid card. I think it's like not crazy, but I think relative, like, with with the combination of like the Hidden Village of Spellcasters, does make this card so much stronger in what it can do. And even decks that aren't Sky Strikers still struggle because like you see even decks, even like backward decks, still play like draw cards and stuff, draw spell cards and stuff, and if they open like 2 of those, that's just 2 dead cards in their hand. I gotta just play you with like 2 cards in the hand that just like don't do anything, which is an advantage all on its own. So I don't know. I think Ib is better than people give it credit for. Number 2, we have a Cossack Magician. This is another card, fucking waifu, if I've ever seen one. Holy crap, a moldy cheese. This is another card that's pretty generic. It takes any 2 monsters with the same type, except for tokens. It's important to note. But, so yeah, pretty generic. And on Link Summon, it bounces anything it points to. So there are going to be times when your opponent is just silly, and they just summon something above the extra monster zone, and you bounce them for no reason. Or they're forced to, because you do have those heavy link decks, and if it's, you know, a Dark Warrior deck that maybe isn't able to extra link, but it's able to just extend and summon a bunch of monsters, they probably will. Even if they can't get into that extra monster zone, they may have something underneath of it, and you can just summon this and bounce. Ruining their co-links, possibly disrupting co-links, and also monsters that point into your zone. For like, what about just like Top Logic Bomber Dragon? Does the Boral Sword point up? I don't think it does. I forget which ones point up, but there are a good number of ones. Decode points up, and other stuff. I don't know, just anything that points up, you could just summon this and then bounce whatever they had there, which is pretty cool. Also, the second effect is actually low-key decent. Like, this card, you never really saw play with this card without, like, Grinder Golem. That was the big thing, right? If you weren't seeing Grinder Golem, you won't usually seeing a Cossack Magician. But if you can make either this out of a Scapegoat or this out of Grinder Golem, usually it's 4 monsters worth. You literally make this, bounce Grinder Golem back, make 2 more tokens, and then go into like a Nightmare or something with like Link Spider or Link Rebo. And then you're looking at this co-link to either Cerberus or Phoenix, and you can activate this second effect, which just says you can declare a specific card name in your deck. Excavate cards from the top of your deck equal to the total link rating of the link monsters co-linked to this card. So if it's pointing down, that's 2. So you excavate the top of cards, and if that card was in there, just add it to your hand. If not, they go to the graveyard. So worst case scenario, you're just milling 2, which a lot of decks just can get some value. Even if you don't play like a predominantly good like deck that has a ton of graveyard stuff in it, you still got a chance. You could probably play something that has value in there. So that's pretty cool. I've done this before. I've done like a lockdown where like I ended with Akashic and Phoenix, so they were both indestructible by battle. And then, like 3 turns in a row, I was just milling until eventually I got a Lilith. Then I just normal summoned Lilith, and because I was playing Lair of Darkness with Grinder Golem in it, and then I just won from there. Like literally just 3 turns in a row, I milled like a Lost Wind in there, and I was able to just get Lost Wind back on one of those turns, and then just help that. That helped me like stun my opponent even further to hold off, and then I just won that duel by being able to tribute stuff. With Lilith eventually. So card's pretty cool. That second effect gets slept on. If you can resolve it, why not? And then other than that, I don't know, that bounce effect, just people sleep on it. People sleep on this card. I think this card, I mean, it's still a little specific, but still, I think it definitely can come up where this card is nice. Bloop, bloop. So don't sleep on a Cossack Magician. And then for the last card here, I have Crusadia Equimax. This card, when it came out, it shot up to what, $10? At least $10. When it came out in the set that was that Saiho? I think that was Saiho. But anyway, this card gains attack equal to the original attack of all monsters it points to. The monsters it points to cannot attack, and once per turn you contribute a Crusadia or World Legacy monster he points to negate a card, a face-up card your opponent controls until the end of the turn. That is a quick effect, which is nice. I wish, like literally, I actually think this card could be a staple in a lot of side decks that just spam the field if this quick effect didn't need to tribute a Crusadia or a World Legacy. If this card could tribute any monster it points to, then this card would be busted. Busted. It'd be so good. But it's not, because it is kind of locked that way. But that's not usually how you use it anyway. You usually use it for the first effect. You just get him huge, and then you just beat your opponent down like a silly man. He's pretty generic. He takes 2 effect monsters as long as one is a link monster, which is fine. You just make a link 2 and then link 2 plus a third monster or a second monster into him. So he's pretty easy. I mean, using a scapegoat or using a grinder golem like thing, you get him just out of that for sure with some, pointing at something. So that's pretty nice, is that can go. You probably have like a link spider under him, so he's at least 3,000, which is pretty cool. And as long as you had like another card to summon, then you summon it to the other zone, and he's huge at that point. And yeah, he helps you OTK while using less resources, and that's what I like the most about this. Like, I actually think this is a pretty cool card for Lair of Darkness, which I know I'm talking a lot about Lair of Darkness, but these cards like remind me of like really good uses, because you have cards like Lilith, where Lilith will only be 1,000, so it doesn't need to be offensive in the battle phase, but you just want Lilith to quick effect tribute your opponent's stuff. So if you put Lilith in this guy's zone, he gets huge, so you have a monster that can pressure your opponent in the battle phase, but also you have Lilith to just pressure them at all times, just to tribute any monster at all times, to terrify them. And you probably have a link spider under him too, so he's probably 4,000 beat stick with a Lilith and just a little body and a link spider. But still, that's pretty, that's pretty solid, I feel like. So I don't know, I just feel like this card does not get as much play as it probably should. I know Boral Sword is crazy, but maybe if you're just a budget player, you're on a budget but you still want to be relatively competitive, and Boral Sword is now over $80, pick up a $5 Equimax. And it's obviously not going to be as good and as proficient with OTKing, but it's solid. And if you're not going to have Boral Sword, this may be the next best option, honestly. So I don't know, this card gets slept on. I haven't seen it in a deck profile like period in like a while, so let's quit sleeping on these cards, guys. All 5 of these, Equimax, Akashic, Ib, Topologic, Trisbana, and Flame Administrator. These are all pretty solid cards that I feel like give them a try. And I can't guarantee you they'll come through perfectly, but I think they'll be better than you think they would. So I'm going to wrap this up here. This video is already longer than it should be, as all my videos seem to be. But thank you so much for watching, guys. If you haven't subscribed yet, go ahead and do so. If you want to see more stuff from me, because I'm back on the grind. Now that Wi-Fi is back up in my house, videos are coming. Hopefully we get some more news. We should be getting the Sisters of the Rose stuff and all this news coming pretty soon here. And I can't wait for that, but for sure be ready, because I will be on top of that news, throwing it out to you as soon as I can. So thank you so much for watching, guys. I'm going to get the hell out of here. Peace.